now, the Duval Rundown, driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, home of the lifetime warranty.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Duval Rundown. I'm Hayes Carline. Please be joined as always on Monday with Frank Frangie, voice of the Jaguars and host of the Frangie Show. Frank, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Hayes. I'm doing well, and it's kind of sad. Football's running down. We're down to one game, bro.
One game left, but we've got lots to get to on Duval Rundown. It's interesting. I want to talk about the matchup from a Jaguars perspective, but before we get to that, and it is going to be an interesting Super Bowl. I'm excited about it, but bringing it back to the Jags a little bit, a couple of lessons learned, I think, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because my two biggest takeaways from watching the race play out to the, obviously now we'll see who wins the world title, but the AFC has decided. Two things: take the points, which Sean Payton learned yesterday, which Liam Cohen, I think, may have learned a little bit of a lesson about in the loss to the Bills. That's been a theme throughout. The teams that have been aggressive in this tournament have been burned by it more than have been helped by it. And man, did seeding matter yesterday, because if the Jaguars had been alive and hosting the AFC title game, it would have been a perfect day. 81 degrees. It was gorgeous yesterday. Now, obviously, that doesn't always happen in January, but you look at the conditions in Denver, which were basically unplayable for the entire second half. And it would have been as bad in Foxborough, because they did a good job of showing the conditions had New England been hosting. And it was a disaster with all the snow and wind. So a good lesson, I think, on a couple of fronts. Take the points. I did think it was interesting that Travis Etienne tweeted that out as well, probably on his way out of the door. And boy, is it important to get his highest seed. I mean, no duh. But the elements yesterday between Jacksonville and Denver and New England really illustrated the importance of playing in Jacksonville for as long as you can.
Yeah, well, let me take both your topics and unpeel them one at a time. Let me start with take the points. That will be the narrative of the offseason, is not just these games, because it's happened so often. What's happened is, because of the analytics world we're in, all coaches, Liam Cohen talked about it, but so did Sean Payton yesterday, to your point. And I'll get to that. I'll get to yesterday's decision in a minute. But that'll be the narrative in the offseason. Do all these teams rethink the analytics part of it, where your percentage is better to do this than that? And we'll see where that goes. It's a copycat league. Everybody winds up doing what everybody else does, and what everybody else does, as long as it's working, right? Well, this is 1 year. Could have gone the other way. But this is 1 year that in postseason games and in critical games, teams that have passed up easy field goals and gone for it on fourth down, and it hasn't worked, has been a talking point after that team lost. We saw it in Jacksonville. We saw it again in Denver. We've seen it a bunch. So that'll be the narrative. I'm not sure it goes to take the points. I'm not sure it's okay from now on. Everybody will kick the field goal there. Things don't usually change that it's not that black and white. But it'll be such a talking point. It'll be such a, we love to talk about the NFL. The NFL never goes away, right? It's always in season. So we love to talk, in what is our off season, we love to talk about that narrative. That'll be the talking point all off season is, are you better off to go back to taking the points? Like back in the day, all those would have been field goals, right? And there'd have been a lot more punts and field goals. So that's one talking point. I'm not sure it goes back to take the points, but because everybody's talked so much about that, that'll be a narrative, and it may start leaning back that way.
Yeah.
In fairness to Sean Payton, now, right, you take the points yesterday. You got a backup quarterback. You're about to go up 10-0. You're dominating the game.
Right.
So he should have taken the points. In fairness, nobody knew the blizzard was coming. Nobody knew that the offense
Isn't that amazing that they had no idea that was on its way? Because it was one of the craziest storms I've seen in a live football game.
And when they started showing the way it looked when the game started, when they did all the timestamp things, it was crazy.
It really was.
And even if you knew snow was coming, I don't think you knew that essentially the offense would be over at halftime. Give the Patriots credit. The one drive they had, and I thought Humphrey dropped the pass he should have caught, or the Broncos would have had a drive. But for the most part, the half, it was so bad the half end, the offense ended at halftime or just about that. So I don't think anybody was. If Sean Payton had known that, he takes the field goal, right? If he didn't, so I think the element as far as
I had no idea the weather out there is that unpredictable.
I didn't either. It was bizarre.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
It was bizarre how bad it got. Which leads to your second point. Well, your second point about home field. I think what you saw yesterday, Hayes, is why more and more teams are going to domes. That's why.
Yeah.
The Jags are going to cover their field. The sides will be open, but the Jags are going to cover their field. Now, you don't need to in the South, but you could get rain or whatever. That's why you're all of a sudden Tennessee's going to a dome.
Is Buffalo a dome?
I don't know if Buffalo and Denver's new ones are domes, but they're building new ones.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think you're seeing why.
I think they might be.
I think I want to say, is it 7 to 9 teams play indoors now and 12 or 13 play on turf? It's something like that.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a day where just about everybody plays indoors to avoid it. We used to love it. Remember now, back in the day, you watch all those old 50s highlights. They played in those baseball stadiums. Remember the mud? You'd have the mud and the Colts-Giants game that was legendary in the 50s is played in the mud. Well, nobody wants that anymore. Become a passing league. We want to see the ball in the air. And there's no chance of that the other day.
You couldn't cut in the second half of Denver, New England, or Denver, New England. You could go straight ahead, but anytime they tried to do anything side to side, the guy was like walking in molasses.
Yeah, and the ball wouldn't stay in the air. So I tell you what, one of the biggest plays of that game was the Patriots guy getting his hand on the field goal. If you said that kick would have been good.
Yeah.
And then it's overtime. We might still be playing, by the way. So it was no, but you're right. That is the point you're making, though. Why seeding matters. If the Jags win out, or if a Southern team wins out, you don't have a game like that, and you could avoid that. But I think that to me the storyline. That's why more and more teams are going to domes, and more games are going to be played indoors.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great weekend of football, but yeah, I thought some lessons learned there for the Jaguars. Let's talk a little bit about this interesting hire that has been reported that Liam Cohen has made, taking the Tampa Bay offensive line coach, and forgive me on the pronunciation of his last name because I'm guessing here, Brian Pachui. I'm not sure. But as he's been hired reportedly as the Jags run game coordinator, that was an element of the team that started well and then faded. I'm intrigued to see, what this guy can bring. He and Liam Cohen have obviously a big time history together, not just in Tampa, but with the Rams and Kentucky, things like that. But this is an interesting staff hire, I think.
Yeah, to me, my take on it is it's not to repair something that went wrong as much as it is. This is a guy Liam's always wanted to work with, and the Bucs wouldn't let him come last year. That's my take on it. And I don't know that for a fact, but the minute Liam got the job and we all started guessing at who might be on his staff, and you did the math and you saw who had been with him in the past, well, Brian was right on the list, right? And then, but it came out pretty clear the Bucs were pretty salty about him leaving the way it all happened. You remember that. So the last thing they were going to do is let anybody out of a contract for what would be a lateral move. Well, now the contract's over and you can go get him. So I don't take this, and I don't know the pronunciation either, by the way. I will learn it, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
But my guess,
and I'm sure I hacked it, so I apologize. but welcome to Jacksonville.
But my guess is this is a guy, even if they had led the league in rushing, once he became available, Liam would have gone and gotten him, because I get the sense that's somebody that he wants to work with, and we all guessed he would work with. So I think it's more that than it is repairing a hole in their running game. Now, if he can help that cause, that's great. I think what it is you have a second offensive line coach and two really good. Surratt's a really good offensive line coach. You got two really good ones. That's my take on it.
Luckily, we have our good friend Lauren Brooks. And Lauren Brooks has told me it is pie. I still can't even do it. Pie coochie.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Lauren
Thank you, Lauren.
Lauren is one of the great pronunciation persons of all time. By the way.
I still don't even think I'm getting it right, and she phonetically texted me it.
Yeah,
it's just I'm lucky I got Campanile right.
Well,
all right.
The reality is, since she left our show, I don't think we've got a pronunciation right yet.
We haven't.
So thank you, Lauren. We appreciate
Yes.
it. So no question.
But yeah, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what what he brings to the table and that familiarity. This should be the last week, I would think, of the Udinski and Campanile watch. I thought they would lose them both. I now think that there's a probably better chance that they keep them both. It seems like, yes, there's still some openings and it could still happen, but it doesn't feel like they're necessarily the favorite anywhere. What's sort of your feeling on it, Frank?
The same, Hayes. I told you when we talked about it, my guess is both are going to get jobs, but neither would get a job this year. I think once your name's out there a few years is when you tend to get jobs usually. And I think that's what happened. So my guess was that they weren't going to get a job this year. So I'm not totally surprised, but I think they're both in the hunt they're both really good coaches. The interesting thing is the amount of coaches who are getting interviewed that have not called plays. Back in the day, you had to be the play caller, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, to get in that hunt for jobs. Well, Grant has not called plays. Nate Shieldhouse in Los Angeles has not called plays. Davis Webb, who started getting a lot of early run, has not called plays. So all of a sudden, now all these guys are under really good head coach / play callers, right? So no one's going to call plays here because Liam's going to do it, and Sean McVay is going to call them in Los Angeles, and so on and so forth. Kyle Shanahan is going to call them in San Francisco. But I'm seeing more young guys, and that really is the model, the young guns, man. I saw Mike McCarthy got hired by Pittsburgh, which has everybody in Pittsburgh melting down because they wanted one of those young guns. And it's interesting now, all the young guns are either offensive or defensive guys. All the young guns are getting these jobs for the most part. But it's interesting to me that guys who are not necessarily play callers are getting chances to be head coaches without ever having called plays. So it's an interesting dynamic. Here's the other thing. Let's say Grant Udinski or Nate Shieldhouse got that Cleveland job. And I agree with you. It doesn't sound like it's Grant now. I still think Jim Schwartz is in play. It would not surprise me if he got it. But if Grant or Shieldhouse got that job, would they call plays? Yeah, I'm very curious. Or would they bring in a play caller and then never have that experience? So but Grant Udinski and Anthony Campanile are terrific football coaches, and they're both going to be head coaches in this league at one point. Probably not early, or possibly not this year.
Yeah, so I mean, if they get both of them back, you can make a case. Now that Cohen is adding the Tampa Bay offensive line coach, whose name I'm now rattled by, and I'm not pronouncing again for a while until I can work on it. But this staff may even be a little bit better than last year's staff. Based on the familiarity year two with the coordinators, if they get them back, and obviously Liam getting one of his more trusted lieutenants from his past to now join the staff. That's certainly exciting. Jacob Simon's helping us out on Duval Rundown, which we certainly appreciate. Jacob, let's say hello to our sponsor, please.
Baloo for Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, your locally owned commercial truck headquarters and proud partner of the Jaguars. For hard-to-find ProMaster vans or commercial trucks for your fleet, visit jaxwest.com today.
Frank, we'll wrap up with this. Excuse me, the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, we're now into those weeks. Pivotal evaluation time. And again, we don't believe the Jaguars are going to be overly interested in things like the combine anymore, in-person visits. They sort of alluded to a lot of this last year, that they feel like a lot of that's the players are rehearsed, they're well coached. It's not a genuine interaction anymore. And so, but the Senior Bowl is something that I still think carries a lot of weight, because it's your first opportunity to really see these prospects do football things against guys that are going to be in this draft. So I am curious to see some players that emerge in these all-star games. Again, I get the Jaguars don't have a first-round pick, but when you've got a second and I believe 3/3, I mean, the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, these are going to be games in which when you got 11 picks, you're probably pulling some guys from this side. I don't expect like specific names, but what are some position groups, Frank, in your opinion, that you're kind of interested in gauging the depth as we get into this sort of all-star process of that kicks off the NFL draft?
Yeah, I think there's two things at play here, Hayes. Number one, the Jags will pay more attention to this stuff than they will the combine, because this is actually football, and they do care about football. But I still think most of the Jags evaluations will be what the guys did as college football players, not what they did in an all-star game, not what they did the week leading up to an all-star game, and not what they did at the combine. I think this group, more than any group we've had here, if it's an Indiana player, what he did in that championship game is going to mean a whole lot more than what he did at the Shrine Bowl or what he did at the combine or how much. And that's not the case with a lot of staffs and a lot of people around the league. But I think what that player did in the first week of November or the third week of October will matter a lot more than what they do in January. I think that's who this staff is. I think they've been adamant about that. We've seen it in free agency. We've seen it in rewarding their own guys. So that doesn't mean they won't have somebody at the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. I don't know what their presence will be. I haven't asked that. We'll find that out. But I still think this staff, more than any staff we've ever worked with, what they do in September, October, and November will matter way more than anything they could possibly do in January, which is a little bit of a departure. And it's one I kind of like, to be honest with you. I like the fact that they feel that way. The second thing, as for position groups, I've talked a lot. We've all talked a lot in the offseason. What now to get better? And again, they'll get better some through free agency. I think they've got 10 picks, to your point. I think you've got to do some things along the defensive front. I think for me, defensive tackle, get an interior pass rush. They haven't had much of that. I think you've got to get better at defensive tackle. I don't know if Mason Smith is a miss yet or not, but he was a draft pick that was a healthy scratch much of the season and much of the second half of the season. So they've got to get better there. I'd like, and you and I have talked about this a lot, Hayes, a twitchier edge guy, more of a guy that's what Kayvon Chason became, right? More of one of those 6'3", 245s that's almost a linebacker and an edge. I think they need a few of those guys. And then probably stuff in the secondary. So that doesn't mean they're not taking any offensive players, but I think they worked really hard to build their offense. They brought in, think about it, if you talk about Hainsey and McCary and then drafted Milam, they brought in 3 offensive linemen that they think are going to be a big part of their future and kind of promoted Cole Van Lanen, who earned it. So there's 4 new offensive linemen in the mix now that weren't a year ago. They obviously brought in Travis Hunter to play some offense. Brian Thomas Jr. will be in his 3rd year in the league. They signed Jacoby Myers to a long contract. I think they're going to do all they can to keep Parker Washington here. You know, Trevor's the quarterback. The tight end room looks pretty good. So I think they've built their offense, Hayes. Last year, I would imagine there's a lot of attention on defense this year. Do you replace Devin Lloyd if he doesn't come back? Is it Ventrell Miller or Jack Kaiser, or do they find somebody new? So I think I would think defense first and foremost. Defensive tackle first on my mind. Twitchy kind of edge rushers, some help in the secondary. Again, they're going to look at everything, right? They got 10 picks. It's going to be a comprehensive draft.
I actually think it is 11.
Is it 11? Okay.
Yeah, because we had the Jags confirm it the week, on the last day of school kind of vibe, the clear out day. Yeah. They have 11.
Yeah, so they got a lot of picks, but I would think defense, both in free agency and in the draft, will be the emphasis. And for me, that defensive front will be first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff, Frank. We certainly enjoy it. Look forward to seeing you later today on the Frangie Show, and we'll be back next Monday with you on Duval Rundown. That's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back on Wednesday with Ryan O'Halloran, so certainly look forward to that, and then Rick Ballou on Friday. Thank you for watching Duval Rundown, and have a great start to your week.